Hello, audience. My name is Dawson. His name is Justin.
Hello.
And welcome back to another movie review. Today's movie review is to prepare for the upcoming Spider-Man Homecoming movie coming out on July 7th, 2017, just days away. And that movie is the original Spider-Man movie from 2002. So, when bitten by a genetically modified spider, a nerdy, shy, and awkward high school student gains spider-like abilities that he eventually must use to fight evil as a superhero after tragedy befalls his family. You gonna move your microphone some more?
I muted myself on the recording, so thanks for blowing the background information.
This
Anyways,
movie stars Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man / Peter Parker, William Dafoe as Green Goblin / Norman Osborn, Kristen Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, and James Franco as Harry Osborn. Now, one thing I should say before we even start this review is that when it comes to Marvel, my favorite superhero has always been Spider-Man. Ever since I was probably, since this movie came out in 2002. So I was like, what, 5?
4.
4? So I remember getting this and seeing this movie and owning my VHS copy of it and wearing that mofo out. I watched this movie way too often. I absolutely love Spider-Man. And yeah, and then Spider-Man 2 and 3 I saw in theaters. So yeah, I was a huge fan. Still am a huge fan.
And
So
contrary-wise, this was my first time watching the movie.
yeah, I've probably seen this movie probably over 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
It might be one of my most watched movies of all time.
Probably.
Probably up there with like The Mask. So yeah, I've seen this movie quite a few times, but a lot of those viewings was when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first viewing probably in the last 5 years. So it's been a while since I've seen it. But Justin, give me your thoughts. We did watch this 2 days ago, so it has been.
Yeah, so things might be a little bit fuzzy in my memory, but I'll try to recall it as best as I can. I mean, I can see how people say this is some of the best, or one of the best, superhero movies of, like, its time, because back then superhero movies weren't great. So this one definitely stands out amongst the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, probably the best superhero movie to precede this was.
X-Men?
Huh?
X-Men?
Yeah, probably X-Men. But even like before that was probably before Batman. Well, I just gave away my answer. Before X-Men and Spider-Man, probably the best superhero movie was Batman, like the one with Michael Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a big gap in between those two.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
I'm completely blanking. Who's Peter Parker in this movie?
Tobey Maguire.
That's right. He did a good job as Peter Parker and as Spider-Man. He has that nerdy look to him, so he fits the character quite well, I should say. Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane. She makes a good redhead, so she makes a good Mary Jane. I really enjoyed her performance. And then Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin did a really good job as well. As we were talking after we watched the movie, he could basically play any kind of maniacal character because he just has that look to him, and that worked very well to him as Green Goblin. And that costume is really good, especially for 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that costume looks better than some stuff they're putting out nowadays, and that's kind of sad by comparison. But it looks really good. Even the Spider-Man costume looked really good in this movie. Which I feel like the Spider-Man costume is probably kind of hard to get wrong. Not because it's like a completely like simplistic costume, but I'm sorry if you heard that. That was a motorcycle going by outside. If not, then I just point out something that's irrelevant.
I didn't hear it.
Okay. But the Spider-Man costume isn't like entirely simplistic, but it is on like the simpler scale where you can make it practical and still make it look good, as compared
Sure.
to like the Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
But it was a good movie. It was fun. It had cool plot to it. Seeing them go for Green Goblin first, because when I think of Spider-Man, I think of his arch nemesis as like the Green Goblin, and then with like Venom following suit. So seeing them use him first, if I was writing a Spider-Man movie, I probably would have done that. I would have saved him to be like the big bad guy. But then again, Venom does exist, and he is the bigger villain of the two of them. So, I don't know.
Especially since, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie in the last decade, they kill him in the final act of the movie.
Yeah.
They kill off the Green Goblin, or at least the original Green Goblin.
Yeah. Which that was in and of itself was kind of weird to me, because like in the sense of the movie it made sense, but also in the sense of just Spider-Man in its entirety, it feels like they could have kept Green Goblin around for a little bit longer. But all in all, this movie was good. The fight scenes between Spider-Man and Green Goblin were really cool. Seeing Spider-Man just swing around the city always looks cool. And then, like, I've seen a lot of this movie through either like fact videos about movies or like top 10 lists, and then I don't know if a lot of people know about this movie. It came out a long time ago, about the same time as this movie, probably a couple years later, like superhero movie with Drake Bell.
Yeah.
I actually know a lot about this movie because of that movie, because they parodied a lot of Spider-Man in it.
Yeah,
That was
like
their
one-
main source of taking shit to joke on.
Yeah, like that one scene where he's on the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and like in Spider-Man he drips blood, but in because he plays the Dragonfly,
Mm-hmm.
Superman movie, he drips. What does he drip?
Urine.
Urine. Yeah, he's peeing himself. Yeah. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure in Superman movie, didn't he taste it?
I don't quite recall.
I don't. It's probably been like, God, it's been forever since I've seen Superman movie. I've seen it like once on TV. But yeah, I don't remember.
And then there's the scene where Peter looks outside through his window.
Oh, the dental floss scene.
Yeah. Mary Jane is just in her room, but in the superhero movie, the chick is in her underwear, and she keeps putting on smaller underwear until she's literally just wearing dental floss.
Now this is just my memory. I don't know if memory serves or not. Isn't the girl who played the Mary Jane type character in that movie the girl who took over for Marnie in the Halloween Town 3 movie, like Halloween Town High?
I do not know.
I don't know why I have that image in my head. I'm gonna look that up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that image is in my head.
Yeah, but because of Super movie, I knew a lot about Spider-Man indirectly. Like, it's probably things that I could have placed with Spider-Man, but I probably didn't think about. Interesting.
Good memory, Dawson.
But yeah, it was good actually seeing the original scenes that Super movies parodied. And then it's funny that Drake Bell got the voice Spider-Man after parodying him.
Yeah.
So it was really cool seeing it all play out in the movie, and I'm excited to watch the other ones whenever we get around to those.
We might watch one today, whether we're together or separate. But I do want to say a little bit of a spoiler alert for you, Justin, for the sequel movies. You might know this. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that you should know. The reason why they killed off Norman Osborn at the end was to create more of a rivalry between Harry Osborn and Spider-Man.
No, I can see that. Yeah.
Because what the last two movies what the second movie leads up to for the third one is Harry becoming the new Green Goblin and trying to avenge his father's death at the hands of Spider-Man, because obviously Harry doesn't know Pete is Spider-Man, and trying to deal with your best friend's hatred for your secret identity, or for your alias, your secret alias or whatever, your superhero identity, is really hard for Pete to deal with, because he has to basically hear from his best friend how much he hates Spider-Man and how much, he's going to get Spider-Man back for what he did to his father. And the thing is at the end of the movie, when you see Spider-Man put down Norman Osborn back into his study, he's out of the Green Goblin suit. He never wanted Harry to know that his father was the Green Goblin, and he was trying to kill him and his then girlfriend. He never wanted Harry to know. He, like Norman said, don't tell Harry. So he tried to hide it from him. So his father was this terrible person who ended up in the end killing himself. But because Spider-Man was, trying to return his body to his son, he ended up getting caught and being blamed for Harry Osborn's death. So it just set up this whole triangle of hatred and friendship, which it's a cool triangle. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that they follow to the very end. But yeah. So what can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It is one of the best superhero movies to ever grace the screen. I think that a lot of people agree that the second one, Spider-Man 2, is probably the better one. But we'll get to that in a second viewing, or in the viewing of the second movie, to whether or not that still holds up. Because again, I haven't watched that movie to the fullest since I was probably maybe 11 years old. Spider-Man 2, because I actually had a bad experience watching it. Something happened while I was watching it, and it kind of put me off in the movie for the past decade. This movie is just so good. Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, she's obviously a very attractive woman, and
they use that.
Yeah, they use that. I mean, they use that. A lot of these older movies really use their female, whether it be leads or supporting characters.
I.e. the kissing in the rain scene.
The kissing in the rain scene. That's one of the most notable scenes. I mean, it was on the back of my childhood VHS tape. It's on the back of my DVD I have now. They use that in marketing. They've used it everywhere. It's a very iconic scene in all superhero movies. It probably, besides maybe like the Tim Burton movies with Batman, the I'm Batman scene, the upside down Spider-Man kissing scene was probably the first iconic superhero movie scene. That was parodied and talked about and was used again and again and again in comic books.
Just to bring it back for a sec, they also parodied that in a superhero movie.
Yeah, they did.
So yeah, they basically took Spider-Man and was like, let's fill this with dick and piss jokes.
Yeah. Tom Maguire is also still really good. His performance in the first two is fantastic. Of course, lackluster in the third one, but he is a great Peter Parker. He fits more of the older Peter Parker, which is why I'm glad that they decided to put him in his senior year and graduate in the first movie, so that in the preceding movies we weren't having a 4 o'clock shatter Peter Parker still in high school. So I'm glad they went the route of getting out of high school, Pete getting his powers. I love William Dafoe. I think he's a fantastic actor, and him as Green Goblin couldn't have been more perfect. Like Justin mentioned, he has that very villainous vibe to him. My dream casting is to have him as the Joker. Whether or not that'll ever happen, we'll see. It's definitely not going to happen anytime soon. But I would love to see him either portray the Joker voice or just in full makeup and costume. I would just love to see that. I think him as the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, respectively, is really good. He really has this businessman mogul vibe to him, and his kind of anger. The scene where him and his assistant are in the lab, and he's giving him the serum to basically turn him into the Green Goblin. This kind of superhero, or this super soldier serum. It's basically what it is. Mm-hmm. It used to scare the shit out of me as a kid, and it still just gave me like the creeps watching it today. There's a scene where he's basically seizing in the chair, and his eyes are white, and then he breaks, or the guy comes in to help him because he dies inside the chamber, and then he chokes him, throws him out the glass, jumps out, and it just freaked me the hell out as a kid. And it still gave me, chills watching it today. It didn't scare me, but it gave me chills just because of that memory. Mm-hmm. Of course, this movie is not perfect. There are some scenes in this movie that are, underwhelming or unnecessary. But overall, I love this movie. Of course, CGI is definitely from 2002. But at the time, when watching this movie in 2002, this was freaking amazing. I mean, I remember watching interviews not too long ago with Stan Lee saying he thought he'd never see Spider-Man look that good on the big screen. Mm-hmm. Like his vision of Spider-Man when he saw Tobey Maguire and he saw the movie for the first time, he saw just little cuts of the movie, trailers, being on set. Watching this movie go down, he never thought he'd see his comic book come to the real life and look as good as it does. And for that time, it looked fucking awesome. I remember...
It doesn't look too terrible nowadays.
It doesn't look too terrible, but there are some scenes where you're like, okay, that's definitely a rubbery, computer-generated Spidey. Mm-hmm. But there are some scenes where you're like, is that practical, or is that CGI, or is it a mixture of both? I don't know what's happening. So I mean, it is good, but there are some scenes where you're like, okay, that's definitely what it is. It's definitely CGI. But I remember behind the scenes seeing Tobey Maguire first put on suits and try on different costumes and such, and try different makeups. And William Dafoe's costume was originally supposed to be animatronic, so the face was supposed to be a robot over, it was supposed to be over like a silicone face, so that it could have expressions and stuff. They went more towards the realistic route with a more armored character, besides more of the rubber mask mm-hmm. side, like they do in the comics and television shows. They went more with the armor, but I like that they tried. And if you have seen the animatronic suit, I'll have Justin put up a picture right here of the actual mask. It's creepy as hell. It really is creepy, and it's really one of those things you're just like, ooh. But I love the suit in this movie. It's one of my favorite costumes in superhero history. And yeah, just overall, really good movie. I have to admit, Justin wasn't looking at me. Justin was at the end of my bed. But when Uncle Ben is talking to Pete, and telling him with great power comes great responsibility, and the scene where he dies, I fucking teared up. My eyes were welting up, because that line, with great power comes great responsibility, was like my life motto as a kid. I had so many things that said, like notebooks that had that on the cover of it, or I would take my books, my Spider-Man books, and like underline that line. And that was like my motto as a kid. I just loved that line. And then seeing Uncle Ben, die, basically not in the hands of Pete, but basically because of Pete's mistake. And it's just, it always gets me. And yeah, and there's just one scene in this movie that is probably the most terror I've seen, like the most believable terror I've ever seen in a movie, and that's when the Green Goblin basically blasts half the house off, and Aunt May is laying on the floor screaming and yelling. That is probably the most believable terror I have ever seen in a movie. Because this little old lady looks like she's about to fucking combust with fear. And I was sitting there watching it, and I was just like, holy shit, I'm scared for her. I'm scared because she looks terrified. And the noises she's making, and just how believable it is. It's such a good movie. I can't say that enough. And I think this movie probably has, we did get spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Logan yet, skip ahead 15 seconds. But we did have a really good death in Logan with Hugh Jackman and even like Professor X and stuff. But I think like the death of Norman Osborn in this movie is probably one of the... I watched a video on it not too long ago about how great that scene actually is, and how the build-up and the cuts and the line said and the way it's just shot really just intensifies the scene for the audience. And it's probably one of my favorite deaths, or my favorite death in a comic book movie. It's definitely in my top probably 3 favorite deaths in a comic book movie. It's really good. But I can't say that enough. This movie, it was just such a pleasure going back and watching it, and reinvigorated my love for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and for the beginning of Sam Raimi's universe. So yeah, it's just a really good time.
So on to rating and recommendation.
Absolutely.
So, as per usual, I shall go first because I'm just that way. I think this movie deserves, let's say, an 8.5. What do you give it?
Justin, you can't do that. I rate this movie an 8, but I have to go higher than you because I like it more than you. I mean, when it comes down to it, I think this movie, is really high. Oh God, Justin, you've messed me up.
Just tie with me then.
I know, but okay, I guess it is. God, I hate you. I had 8 in my head. Okay, I'll give Spider-Man an 8.6.
Okay, and do you recommend?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah! So that's 2 thumbs up. So any final thoughts?
That's 2. What the thwips?
2 thwips.
2 thwips up. 2 thwips up.
Any final thoughts?
Don't tell Harry.
That's pretty much it for us, guys. Let us know down below what you think of Spider-Man from 2002. But until next time, guys, we'll see you later.
Thwip.